Call the meeting to order.
The meeting has been posted according to open meeting laws.
Roll call.
President Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Alexander.
Here.
Trustee Holm.
Here.
Trustee Renucci.
Here.
Trustee Smalley.
Here.
And Trustee Wisniewski.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, we will start with citizen participation per Village Resolution 2017-01. Anyone wishing to address the village board during citizen participation will be allowed 5 minutes. Your subject must specifically relate to matters under the jurisdiction of the village board, whether on the agenda or not. The village board should not engage in a discussion regarding comments because it was not part of the publicly noticed agenda. Upon conclusion of this citizen participation segment, members of the audience are not allowed further comment unless they're participating in a public hearing or specifically allowed by a majority vote of the village board due to involvement in an agenda item. And we do have a public hearing later, so if you're here to speak about special assessments for School Street, you're welcome to speak during citizen participation, but it's probably easier if we do it during public hearing. That said, any comments? Going once? Going twice? Okay, I will close citizen participation. We'll move on to consent agenda. One motion and a second will approve all the following items. Any item may be pulled from the list and voted on separately.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda with the exception of item 2.
I'll second that.
Okay, any questions or discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. What's your question on item 2?
I have, maybe this is for Eileen more than anything, but just a couple, I was reading through this, and for the technical advisory services, Eileen, and I was just curious, if the work is done and there's a TID form, can these costs be recovered in the TID?
Yes, those are soft costs, so any of the soft costs like engineering or those type of services can be recaptured through TID.
That makes me feel better. The other question I had is, has our village attorney looked at this?
The village attorney has not reviewed that.
I guess I'm just kind of, I left my law degree home, so but I guess my question is should we have the attorney look at it?
We can if the board would like the attorney to review it.
I guess the reason is because there are some issues, at least I'm reading towards the back about liability and what happens if something goes wrong, or, like they're kind of off the hook right away, and it's like, wait a minute. I just want to make sure that whatever we get into, that we get in seeing everything right away.
Sure, I can have him review it.
So then, do we table it, or do we
No,
approve it?
So I'll make a motion to approve the consideration proposal for technical advisory services from Ramball for the Critical Materials Environmental Response Trust properties, subject to only minor revisions from legal.
I'll second that.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're going to go down to miscellaneous business. Just for note, item 3, we're not going to be doing tonight because we did it at our last meeting. But there is some information there if you're interested. So item 1, presentation by East Troy Community School District regarding, Yes, we did.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah. I made a motion to approve it.
Yeah, and then yeah, we did.
Okay, got it.
Unanimous.
Okay, got it.
Yep. All right, so it is East Troy Community School District presentation regarding capital referendum for the November 5th election. We have Anna and Ted here. Come on up. So just push the little, yeah, there you go.
Hi, everybody. I'm Anna Janis. This is Ted Zess. We are both on the East Troy Community School District Board of Education. And we wanted to give a short presentation tonight about the question that will be posed on the November 5th ballot with regard to a capital referendum question for the school district. There's a few slides. This one speaks to kind of why we're here. The state of Wisconsin had some time ago changed how schools are funded. And so school districts, in theory, have an operating budget to operate their schools, right? To pay their staff, to take care of operating the buildings, heating them, having transportation paid for, making minor fixes to buildings. Funding changes a few decades ago really cut off the ability for schools to fund larger projects. And so capital referendums have become very, very common across the state. East Troy has had a couple of them in the last few decades actually pass, and many that we have seen fail. So the school district has asked a number of times for support from the community for capital projects. Things like Prairie View and Little Prairie were built along those means, and some other additions had been made to buildings during that time. This year, we have a few very specific projects that we would like to see done to certain buildings. We've tried to be very specific about where the money would be spent, and we'll go through that on the slides. I would also, I guess, just pause to say there are a number of pages on the community school district's website where all of these slides and additional information exists as well. So if anyone needs help, my phone number's on the website, my email, Ted's too, we're all there. We're definitely looking to make sure people have information to make their choice on the ballot on November 5th. So this referendum comes after a number of activities over a few years. We worked with an outside agency to help assess the buildings from a infrastructure, security, how well are they set to actually instruct and hold classes each day, how much are they meeting the needs of our students and our staff. We also put together a community advisory committee last year. That committee met a number of times to help understand what the buildings need and help advise the school district on what we should do about those needs. We also sent out a survey this past June asking the community what their thoughts were for how to handle some of these projects and really what the tolerance was for spending some additional money. The school board approved the resolution that appears on the November 5th ballot back in August, so that brings us to today. And this is how the question will appear on the ballot specifically. So the total bond would be for $19.4 million. That's a bond paid over 20 years, and the tax impact is basically spread across that amount of time. The specific bond may only be used for, as it's listed there, capital maintenance, safety, security, renovations, building infrastructure and site improvements at the high school, middle school, and Prairie View Elementary School, improvements to the bus garage and site, and acquisitions of furnishings, fixtures, and equipment. And the next slides will go over the very specific projects. The questions are never worded in a very friendly way, I guess I would say, by the time the lawyers go through them. So again, we've got a few, I think, extra handouts here as well. And again, trying to make sure people understand this is what we're asking to be able to do with these buildings. So specifically at the middle school, we're looking to change the entrance there from a security standpoint and also adjust how traffic flows. If you've driven past the middle school, high school in the morning, drop-off is definitely a bit of a safety issue. There's a lot of kids, buses, vehicles, bicyclists, pedestrians moving about that area. And we want to make sure that the entrance to the middle school is more secure. At Prairie View, similar but different. The entrance there, we believe, could be made more secure at Prairie View. So those are the very specific safety and security projects. Then from a maintenance perspective, again, more information about all of these is on the website as well, but there are some projects at Prairie View around the roofs and a number of sections that need to be replaced. We have a leaking wall in the gymnasium that's been there for some time. And that building is, I think, older than I even realize. So the wooden windows in that building need to be replaced. There's rotting happening and infrastructure replacements needed there. The middle school has some roof replacements that needs to be done. And then at the high school, we have some very outdated HVAC equipment repairing. Has been possible for some time, but becomes more and more difficult the older those pieces of equipment get. So we do not want to wait until they have failed and cannot be fixed. We would like to replace them. They are well past their age. And then there are some roof sections that need to be replaced as well. The bus garage, if you've been back there, the bus garage has some, it's a very old building in and of itself. So we will definitely be using funds from this referendum to replace asphalt. There's pooling of water. It's a bit of an icy mess in the wintertime. Getting in and out of the bus garage is a bit complicated. There are many trip hazards because of the way the asphalt is. If our projects come in a bit under our anticipated budget, we would also like to make some improvements to the physical structure of the bus garage, again, just because of its aging status. And then the last component to this list of projects is our middle school science rooms. Today we have one very outdated science lab room. I honestly don't know the last time it has been addressed to be updated. And then we have two rooms that are sort of like this that are used for teaching science. And so we would like to turn them into a bit better laboratory space for meeting educational needs as well. So that is kind of a quick overview of the projects included in the funding. Are there more slides? Yes, thank you. So at the time of the survey, we had, a take on how much some of these projects would probably come in at. We've refined some of those plans a bit more, and we've also taken a few of the projects off the list. So these dollars, if you took the survey or read the survey, you would notice they don't match up exactly. This is a lesser dollar amount than was asked on the survey. So at the time of putting our question together and deciding to actually go forward with the resolution, this is our best estimate with our financial advisors on what the impact would be for taxable property value. So for $300,000 in taxable property value, that would be $63 a year added to the taxes. And so hopefully everybody can sort of see what that would mean for their particular home and property. Hopefully everyone remembers in a very positive way, the community came behind our operational referendum last year. We're very thankful for that. We were able to maintain the staffing that we have across the district and the programs as a result of that, which is certainly something I'm very thankful for, the community supporting the school district in that way. It's certainly not a fun thing to have to ask the community for additional money. I personally understand the question that's being asked. And also, I think I'll speak for myself. I can't speak for the entire school board, but we just need to represent what's needed in these buildings. We've tried to pick out the really most critical time-sensitive needs, and that's what's reflected on the question and on the ask. Do you want to add anything, Ted?
Really not. More, anybody has any questions or comments on what we're asking for?
If it's approved, when would you issue the debt? Is it when next year?
Be about the middle of the year.
Okay, I was just asking just because hopefully interest rates go down again.
We're hoping.
Yeah.
Yes.
Other questions? All right. Thanks for coming in to give us a
Thank you.
presentation. and-
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and this should be available, your presentation will be available on our YouTube site, so. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right. Item 2, consider recommendation from administrator to appoint Marcia Danette Smith, preferred name is Danette, as deputy clerk until 12/31/2024 and clerk as of 1/1/2025. Eileen?
I'll make a motion to approve the position clerk going to Danette Smith.
Eileen, do you want to give us a bit of an overview?
Yeah, so I was pleased with how the search for a new clerk went, and I feel like we have a strong candidate to recommend. In my memo, I had mentioned that Danette actually worked for the East Troy Times when she first moved to, I think when you first moved to Wisconsin. So she's not unfamiliar with attending village board meetings and plan commission meetings. In fact, before the meeting, she said, "I'm not used to attending and not having to work." And I said, "Don't get too used to that." So, yeah, she has very well-rounded experience, so I'm pleased to be recommending her. And then my recommendation was, as you had read in your motion, initially as deputy clerk, and then that transition as of 1/1 to clerk. We technically cannot have 2 clerks at once, but we can have numerous deputy clerks, and that was the reason that I had recommended it that way. And I had invited Danette to come up and introduce herself and say a few words. So Danette, if you wanted to step up and introduce yourself to the board.
I did the first thing right. I'm proud of myself. Thank you all for inviting me here to speak and introduce myself. Some of you I know from way back. I can hardly believe I've been in Wisconsin 24 years. But for many, many years, I was very well versed in all things Village of East Troy, Town of East Troy, Emergency Area Services District, and Lake Districts. So even way back then as a newspaper reporter, I had a lot of interest in municipal government, having come from a position in federal government, learning the different aspects, but yet the same familiarity of chain of command and structure has always been something of interest of mine. I left the newspaper back in 2008-ish, 2009, and went on to positions with a ministry and a not-for-profit organization, and then currently I work with Waukesha County, and I've been there just over 8 years at a nature center. And when the opportunity presented itself to perhaps come back home, as I like to think of it, here in the Village of East Troy, I couldn't wait to apply and was thrilled to be interviewed and eventually offered the position. So I hope that if you have any questions you may have, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'll be thrilled to talk with you all later.
I guess the powers that be wanted to make sure you felt welcome, so they remodeled the front offices for you.
Well, I have to say, this is a huge step up from the old Village Hall on the Village Square, and much larger and with lots of technology, so. Well, it's all great and new, so I'll be thrilled to be a part of it.
Well, we're glad to have you here, so let's make it official. We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, welcome. Thank you so much. All right, so we said item 3 was incorrectly placed, so we're not doing anything with that. Item 4, consider approval of change orders 1 and 2 for Village Hall alterations. Jason?
Okay, so we have completed the reconstruction project here. As you all know, we did some upgrades to security, HVAC, and then, of course, the remodeling of the front entryway. And then we added the handicap door operators in all the entrances of the building. So one update to my memo, Eileen pointed out to me today, so we had a spreadsheet we were working off of together to try to make sure we were getting this done under budget. And the furniture, fixtures, and equipment spent number, where it's 31,701.47, that should actually be 28,866.47, so less than anticipated. And what was that? That was due to a,
I had put an estimate for some of the pictures
Oh,
we
yeah,
had ordered in the
pictures.
spreadsheet, and then I put the actual. So I just corrected that after the fact, and there was just a timing issue with him doing his memo and my correction.
sure. There's, punch list items have been addressed, although one HVAC item crept up over the weekend in the police department, which I made the contractor aware of. We do have a 1-year warranty, so that won't be an issue. But other than that, the project is complete. And before you tonight are the change orders 1 and 2, which is a series of smaller proposed change orders along the way that, you know, we did some things like adding, originally the plumbing, when the building was built, is under the concrete. We decided up front to move that up into the ceiling in case we ever had to work on it. We would never have to take the floor up, and other changes along the way that are kind of spelled out in those change orders.
Can I, just for the sake of discussion, Jason, for the people at home, I mean, are you happy? Is the staff, everybody satisfied with what's been done?
So from an operational standpoint, I am. I think the building is more comfortable with our HVAC upgrades. Again, you know, we talked about the security things we did. I think the front lobby works better. We're getting a lot of positive comments about it. So I would say yes, but, you know, I guess I would look to Eileen to answer that question as well.
So hopefully they've eliminated the high humidity in the offices.
The offices were very comfortable this summer. It was very nice. Some people might have thought it was a little cold, but, you know, the humidity was way down, which was very nice. So I think staff really appreciates the investment in the building.
Well, in that case, I'll make a motion to approve change order 1 and 2 for the Village Hall alterations projects in the amount of $43,945.30.
I'll second it.
All right, any questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, item 5, discussion and possible direction to staff regarding multi-use trail Phase 2 design. Jason, can you walk us through that?
Okay, so multi-use trail, Phase 2. We're going to pick up at Brookstone, continue south to Honey Creek Road. As you all remember, we received a federal grant for this. So as part of that process, we had to go through a request for proposals on engineering. You'll notice that Lynch isn't designing this one. We selected Kapoor, which we had previously brought you that proposal from Kapoor. And part of it initially was for them to take a look at what side of Highway 120 we would construct this trail. There was some back and forth about that. And this report essentially is their recommendation. Their recommendation is to construct the trail on the east side of Highway 120, crossing at O'Leary Lane. So continue south from where the current trail ends on the west side of Highway 22 O'Leary Lane there, and cross over and then continue south out to Honey Creek Road. And they're basing that on existing utilities on the west side of the road, the topography, the amount of land clearing, things like that. I did run this by Tim Lynch to get his thoughts on it, and he kind of concurred with what Kapoor had come up with and recommended that we follow their recommendation. One of the reasons we looked at trying to do it on the other side is because there's a We Energies utility pole line that we would have tried to use for street lighting.
Because there's going to be approximately 14 new poles going in minimum.
So-
And well, just a second.
Yep.
And they, plus they're going to have to wire it. And, because see, the poles that are out there already have wiring. Now, Jason's explained to me that We Energies is on the west side, and where does the sewer run, Jason?
The sewer is on the west side.
Well, the sewer is
water
on
ma-
the west side from the,
It's on the west side of Highway 120.
all the way
On the
down.
shoulder. The water main is on the east side.
I see, until it gets up to the water tower.
Then it's on both sides
Then
of
it's
the
on
road.
both sides.
Yes. So a couple things with lighting. If we were to utilize the We Energy lighting, that's not something that's grant eligible. Those funds would not be grant eligible. If we wanted to do lighting similar to the downtown square, like decorative lighting, that would, those costs would be eligible in the grant. Because then we would have to pay for and maintain that infrastructure. If it was the We Energy's lights on their poles, the grant funds could not pay for that. So that's another decision we will have to make at some point, because I think we are going to want to try to light this thing just to, make it as safe as we possibly can.
What about things like crossing lights, especially, I mean, obviously across 120 there at O'Leary, but even across the on and off ramps?
I think at the on and off, at the off ramp, so that's a controlled intersection because it's a stop sign. At an on ramp, it's not. I don't know if the state would let us put it at the ramps though, just because of where we would be crossing or where we would be crossing at their intersection. But I would certainly envision having crossing flashers similar to we have up on Highway 20 where we cross Highway 120 at O'Leary Lane.
But
And
with-
that's 120, not G.
It's right in the area where it transitions.
G goes to the freeway, does it not? And then from the freeway going towards
I've
G is
had
120.
conflicting answers on that question from even the county, so I'm not 100% sure anybody knows, but I've always treated it as where the 4-lane starts is where Highway 120 starts.
So-
The crossover by O'Leary Lane, is there a relief built in there? It's that line crosses over, and it looks like there's a relief built in there, but is it going to back up a little bit more so there's more of a, kind of stop for pedestrians?
Yeah, so like pedestrian refuge in the middle, is that what, kind of like we have up on Highway 20 now? I mean, I think that's something we certainly need to look at and design to have that, because I think it would make it a safer crossing. So,
Plus, now, so in other words, you're saying the flashing cross lights aren't needed at a stop sign?
correct, because it's a controlled, you're already stopping traffic there.
So you won't need it at Highway 120 and Honey Creek Road? Because they're going to be crossing Honey Creek to go to the
Yeah, so
south side of
How
Honey
they would
Creek, are they
show 'em.
not?
Yeah, that would be correct. I didn't know if they were jogging over and going up, but yeah, they're showing coming straight across at that controlled intersection.
They will have to figure something out, though, for that on-ramp that's going to go toward,
So Jason, I remember when we first talked about doing this trail many years ago, and Lynch looked at it, there was some discussion about how much room was available underneath the overpasses, and I'm trying to remember how that conversation went.
So Tim had brought us a couple of options at the time, like a concrete barrier wall in between, and I think I'd have to look back in minutes, because we did select an option that we liked. So we'll obviously roll that into the design of this. I don't remember exactly which option we chose, but I believe we did have a concrete barrier in between, just for safety's sake, because the trail does get closer to the shoulder of the road at that point, just because you don't have any choice. And going on either side didn't really matter, because you kind of had the same room to work with, so,
especially in the wintertime.
right?
I couldn't remember if that mattered, east side or west side, that conversation.
No, I don't believe so. And at that time, I know we were kind of conceptually planning to go on the east side, but again, that hadn't been determined yet.
Are you looking for a motion here?
I'm just looking for kind of a consensus. I know this is something we had previously talked about, and I just wanted to bring it back in front of you guys before we get too far along and to see if there was strong feelings one way or not. My recommendation would be just to go along with what they're recommending.
Yeah, my only concern would be, I'd like to see it cross where the speed limit is lower, but I think a better trade-off is having that island in the middle, so that you're really not crossing both directions of traffic at the same time, so. I'm okay with alternative A.
I'll make sure to bring that up to Kapoor in our next discussion when it comes to designing that crossing.
Because I think if you did cross it down by Mill Pond Park or Buell, I think that is G. So I think getting some clarity around who we have to deal with at that crossing is going to be important. All right, any other comments, questions for Jason? All right, thanks for bringing that to us. All right, we'll move on to ordinances and resolution. Resolution 2024-11, final resolution levying special assessments for school streets. So I will open the public hearing. Jason, could you please go through, or actually I guess it's Eileen. Eileen and Jason kind of go through your memo and the amounts, and then we'll take questions or comments from the public.
I'll go first and review my memo, and then Jason, you can take it over when we get to the report section. I know you wanted to note a correction to the report. My memo outlines the changes that the board had made with ordinance 2024-09. So the installment option for those who are assessed is really stipulated in that ordinance. So because all the assessments are between $1,500.01 and $10,000, that would mean that they would get 10 years to pay. The ordinance also stipulated that the interest rate would be 1.5% greater than what we're paying on the bonds, which in speaking with Ellers, they said the coupon rate, which is 5%. So the interest rate that was inserted into the resolution is 6.5%. And Jason, you wanted to note something on the report.
So I was contacted by some property owners on School Street. 2812 School Street shows an assessment in here for a sanitary lateral of $2,100, and their sanitary lateral was not touched during this project. They go out to Main Street, so the overall assessment will be reduced by $2,100.
What was that address again?
2812 School.
Resolution on Tim's report's not.
And so the project is nearing completion. Tomorrow, we're paving the top lift of asphalt out in the business park. You remember the business park cul-de-sac was part of this project as well. That's really the last thing to do. There's some minor punch list items. We'll be doing a final punch list tomorrow, and the project should then be complete.
How'd the company do with the curb and gutter? It looks pretty good. I was just asking.
Concrete turned out really well. Actually, it was Schultz out of Fort Atkinson, and they were our partner in the downtown square project with concrete down there. So this project was a little less stressful in the fact that we were doing it in September rather than November, December, but the concrete turned out fine.
Okay, any other questions for staff before? All right, I'll open it up to the public. Anybody who has questions or comments? Questions or comments from the public? Please, come on up. This is your time. So if you could just hit the little people button there and state your name and address, please.
Paige Anderson, 2838 School Street. So, I mean, the letter I got said that we could talk about the costs, like, is that negotiable? Or, like, I don't know about anybody else that lives on School Street, but that project was not very easy to live with the last 4 months. And the initial letter I got when this project started was that I owed no money projected. And then this says I do owe money, And not only that, but like I didn't get my mail for months. My internet got cut multiple times, so I had to pay Spectrum to come out every single time to re-fix that. My garbage never got picked up. I had to call John's Disposal several times to come get it on days it wasn't scheduled. So those are my questions.
Jason, can we address the cable or the garbage pickup? I'm sorry, can you just, because this file is hard for me to, the resolution's really low, so can you tell me your address again?
Yeah, 2838.
28.
ROP 00003.
So I'll speak to the communication stuff. There was some challenges with Digger's hotline tickets initially on this project. Things were not getting marked. The communication companies had switched from USIC, who does all the local locating, to another firm. At first, nobody even knew about it, so nobody even knew that the orange marks, which is communication, were not getting painted. And these are not excuses. I'm just trying to give some backstory on it. So there were challenges on multiple properties that lost phone or cable or internet because of that situation. The trash, I know there was a couple of times we had to call John's back and ask him to come back. There was construction conflicts that, the drivers couldn't get by the construction sites where they were working. They did come back later in the day to pick up trash on a couple of events.
What about issues with the mail?
So I know that's something that came up early on, and the contractor had set temporary mailboxes up by the Legion and notified the post office about it. My
They
understanding is late in,
No, they did not. I checked that, and I never got one mail in that mailbox.
okay. I know a lot of the residents decided to pick up their mail to have the post office hold their mail, and they would go get it. I'm not sure why that they didn't deliver to the temporary mailboxes. The mail driver was aware of it, so I don't know why they didn't do that.
I'm just curious, Jason, I'm not blaming the contractors or the village or anybody, but did anybody that was setting that up go talk to the post office?
Yes, Bryce, the on-site inspector.
Okay.
So maybe you and I can have a conversation with whoever's in charge of the local post office. So I don't understand why that's so hard. It's not like streets don't get shut down for construction like this. So, what did they do when they shut down the square? Did they not deliver mail over there? It seems really...
Like I say, I'm not sure why, because I know I had asked the driver at one point about it, and, so he knew that they were there as well. I'm just not sure why that didn't happen.
So I think the beginning of your question is, so there was some preliminary estimations. Obviously, during the project, we changed the ordinance so that you all would not be assessed for curb and gutter or sidewalks or any repair work to your driveway. So what you've got here is sanitary laterals. So why did we not think that hers would be addressed?
Because originally, when the project set out, we thought her sanitary lateral, so there's between her property and the neighboring property, there's a large sanitary sewer that runs between the two properties, perpendicular to the street, that runs back towards behind Pluis's, under the railroad tracks, and back to Ashland Meadows. And records indicated that that's where her sewer was connected, which we weren't going to do anything with it. But unfortunately, then when we excavated in the road, we found it to be in a different location, and we had to repair it since we located it. So unfortunately, we didn't have good records from previous construction projects. That's something we've fought on multiple projects. Our predecessors didn't keep records like we do today. So unfortunately, it was something we had to learn as we went along.
I guess back to the Spectrum piece. So since we had that problem, why is Spectrum or any telecom company charging the property owner when there's a construction project going on like that?
I can't speak to that. I typically, I didn't think they would do that. I'm not sure, but they actually sent you bills.
They told me every time they come out here, and they told me to tell your guys to stop hitting it, and they kept hitting it. And I went a whole week without internet because the road was so messed up that they couldn't fix it, and they couldn't find where it was cut. So I went a whole week without internet one week, which my electric, my HVAC is set up through internet. So just was really frustrating. And I guess the lack of communication was the most frustrating. But like I said, I'm just questioning on the charges and if I have to pay the full amount.
So I guess that my question is if she and other residents have bills that were incurred for internet or telecom type repair because of that, should they bring that in and we factor that into the amounts that we have in front of us?
Yeah, we certainly could look at that through retainage of the project to see, I would want to obviously consult with our attorney, but to see if, we could get those costs recouped that way.
The only problem though, Jason, like you just said though, is if it wasn't marked properly.
Yeah, I guess, though, we can do an after-action review more in depth. I want to make sure that, the question in front of us is the special assessment. So, you do have a sewer lateral, and yes, unfortunately, our records were incorrect. So, I would understand you're being upset about, you got a letter saying, hey, I don't think that we're going to have this, and now you've got this. But then on top of that, to be asked to pay for repairs, I don't see that being appropriate if we've got a recourse. So I guess as I'm looking at is for you and anybody else, if they have, here's my bill, Spectrum charged me $100. I don't know what they charge you, but to bring that in and we show that and that we would take that down from what's on this. Would we agree with that? I agree with that, sure. Okay. All right. So we'll factor that into our motion here. So thank you for coming in. I apologize that happened. I work from home. I understand internet is a utility. It's not a would-be nice thing. So, and then we'll talk more about some of the other items you brought up from after action and see what we can do so that others don't have to deal with that. Thank you for coming in. Okay. Other comments, please. Take your time. Yeah, if you just hit,
Right
yep,
there.
there you go. Just, can you give us your name and
Green
address?
for go.
please? Green for go, you got it.
I am Debbie Peterson. I'm on 2848 School Street. Just something a little minor, but the first, I think the first digging through the road, they damaged my mailbox. Now my mailbox is connected to the platform on the pole where there's 4 different mailboxes. Mine's attached by two crazy-looking wires right now, and it's damaged. That's it.
And were you charged for any type of repair by anybody, or was that our repair?
No, that's how they fixed it.
Somebody just put a wire.
Put some wires, 2 wires on one on each end. And
So-
it's sitting really close to the next one.
That's on the post, Debbie, that's on
It's on
the
the
post
post,
with
yes.
with multiple
With-
mailboxes?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
So you got that one down? Okay.
So I would really appreciate a new mailbox out of this project.
I'll let DPW
Let
evaluate
me
the
know.
condition. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, and letters, or put some new letters on it.
Could you pop the button here, please? Thank you.
Okay. Oh, wrong one.
All right. Other comments during the public hearing? Almost said citizen participation. No? Okay. Going once? Going twice? Okay. I will close well, yeah, I guess, are we, any other items to present during the public hearing from you? Anything else? Okay. All right, I'll close the public hearing. We'll move on to potential action by the village board.
I'll move to approve Resolution 2024-11, final resolution levying special assessments for School Street,
With what?
with the additional considerations we've discussed earlier.
Can I clarify your motion? What was the property?
2812 school.
Okay, so 2812 School Street would have no assessment? And that if anybody has,
It was 2838.
well, and if, yeah, and if others have
Yeah,
bills
if
incurred?
anyone have bills that they've incurred because of this construction that was unanticipated, they should submit those to Jason for consideration.
Lori, are you clear on that motion?
Approving the resolution with the addition, the residents should present any additional billing from
Utility repair, or damage
for repair
repair?
and damages to DPW for consideration.
And,
As well as the property that should be
Striking 2812.
Oh,
No,
we should put that property in there.
no assessment for that property.
Yeah.
got it.
You got a question? Come on up.
Patricia Keys, 2854 School Street. I'm just checking as I listen to what you're putting in as clauses and amendments to, that the getting temporary mail and getting the boxes delivered to shouldn't be so hard. Somehow, for the next project, it can't be that hard.
That's why I said we'll do an after action. You and I have talked, yeah. And I wasn't aware of that failure to deliver, so we'll
Well-
follow up with the local post office, to understand what's their problem.
And Bryce went and talked to the post office after I went and talked to the post office because the contractor didn't talk to the post office. It shouldn't be Bryce.
Okay, so you're clear on the motion? Okay, so we have a motion. Is there a second? Can you say that?
Second.
Okay, 40 seconded. All right. We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion on this hopefully straightforward motion?
I just have one comment. I'm wondering if we should just hold this resolution until our next meeting. Let's see what Bill, no?
So the reason why we can't do that is in order due to timing and notification. So you have to have 30 days notification. And if something is wrong, we discover later is wrong, we can bring this back. So, other questions or discussion? That is a good question, though. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Staff reports, item 1, Fire Chief's August 2024 report. Jason? Jason Smalley?
Any questions? No additions from me.
I was just wondering, did they, I think I asked Jason, I can't remember, did they get the mini pumper up yet or no?
The mini pumper has been up for over a month.
Oh, no, I know, but is it actually in use to get the radio in, everything all set and changed over? And
From our last meeting, the radios weren't switched over yet, but they had temporary radios inside, so they were able to use it,
That-
so.
that was-
But it has been in operation for at least a month.
All right, budget schedule from administrator. Questions for Eileen? You can see in red very, very easily the one change from today to 2 weeks from now. Keep in mind, we're not going to have a November 4th meeting, correct? Yeah, that's why we're not doing it, John. That's exactly, oh,
We're not scared of John, we're scared of Lori.
yeah.
As you should be.
Yes. All right, item 3, municipal court for September 2024. Any questions or comments on that?
I think it's impressive that it actually came out 60 cents to the good on the whole thing.
All right, item 4, wastewater treatment plant lab audit report. Tom just stepped out. Must be good.
He's pretty confident.
Any questions? Actually, it was a very positive audit. There were some changes that need to happen in procedure and SOPs, mostly because DNR tends to change the way we do business from time to time.
No.
There he is. I'll let him speak to it.
You're up. He was testing the plan.
So what'd I miss?
I know, you tell us.
Any highlights you want to share?
For highlights, this was, and it's not in that memo, this was Mike Miguel's, our current lab technician's first audit without Bill. Same for me, and Bill was there for 38 years, so it seemed a little high pressure, but I think it went really well, and like the memo says, there were some deficiencies stated. Those were taken care of, and we have an all clear. That's the 30,000-foot view, so.
These really look like audit work papers. I'm like having flashbacks, so.
Was it riveting, or?
No,
No?
no, not really. So,
And there's some attachments where we got some feedback from the auditor, Autumn Farrell, or, actually, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but from Autumn, she did a lab audit, I think the last year Bill was there, so that was 6 years ago. So she's very thorough. She's also very understanding of how some of those deficiencies are seemingly ticky-tacky. If our results are coming out and our data is good, what most of those are is small verbiage. I wouldn't say housekeeping as much as how a sentence was structured, type of a deal. One thing that we do in the lab is there's a book, Standard Methods, and that's, if you need to fall asleep, crack that book open. But it's a very, very specific way of how you do a test and everything in there so that you can have repeatable quality data. And then what we do in the lab is we have our notes for the actual operator who's doing the test. So we just had to clean up the real ticky-tacky stuff. There were some changes to some Excel spreadsheets, but all in all, good. It was, yeah. Also riveting stuff, but I think the experience was good. It was really nice to watch Mike grow through the experience. We both understand what the audit's for. It's to see if we're doing something wrong that we're unaware of and to get it fixed, so.
well, glad you went through it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, I once reviewed an audit report that was 450 pages, and it said no deficiencies, and I didn't believe that that was possible. So just because you have something here is not bad. So-
Right. And that, going into that, I can tend to run a little nervous and hearing, watching the auditor react to certain things, it's like, oh, but you're right. That's what an audit's for.
Yep.
So none of those things were intentional or by bad data or bad workmanship. It's just
Yep.
the way it was.
Isn't it sometimes too, it depends upon the person doing the audit? Everybody has a different way of doing things?
So the audit 3 years ago, or previous to this one, I should say, was during COVID. And it was, that was subcontracted out, right? The DNR didn't have staff, so they had subbed it out. And that was a much different experience.
Yep. And you're absolutely correct, 40. If 5 different auditors did our audit, maybe a few of those deficiencies would be universal, but we would be seeing different things.
'Cause when you have the same auditor for over a period of time, they already know the answers to half of the questions they want to ask anyway. And so they're going to zero in on stuff that they know could be an issue, right? Is that correct?
No. No, you're right. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate
Any
it.
questions? Other questions? All right, thank you.
Thanks. All right, item 5, Police Department third quarter report. Jeremy had a call, so he is not here. But any questions we want to follow up with him about? All right, committee reports, Emergency Services District, August 20th. Questions for Jason? Anything else here we didn't already touch on?
Nothing else.
Do you need anything help budget-wise?
No, we're good. We're finished.
All right. Booth Lake Memorial from August 21st. Questions for Joe?
This park's pretty quiet. So we're just.
We
working on
went
the
to,
budget?
yeah, we went to the Alice Chester event.
Okay.
And we were on the bus, and there were a lot of people, not from East Troy, and so we went down by Booth Lake, and they were like, "Oh, look at the tank! Oh, look at the park!"
Yeah.
So there was, you had good curb appeal.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, draft plan commission minutes from September 16th. Questions for 40? You shouldn't, because you turned around and an hour later approved all of it, so. Questions now would not be good. Okay. Then I will make a motion to adjourn to closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 1985-1E for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, investing of public funds, or the conducting of other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, offer to purchase property, TID 5, development agreement, and 1985-1C, considering employment, promotions, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, department heads.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote, please.
President Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Alexander?
Yes.
Trustee Holm?
Yes.
Trustee Nugent? Oh, Trustee Renucci?
Yes.
Trustee Smalley?